Welcome to Fox Gaming. In today's battle report, the goblins of Moria are facing the dead of Dunharrow. It is a 150-point game. Army of the Dead consists of 10 models, 3 with spear, 2 with shield and spear, 2 with nothing and 3 with shields. They do not need a leader because of their army special rule, so there is just those 10 models. The Goblins of Moria consists of 2 warbands, 1 with a captain and 8 goblins, 4 with shields and 4 with spear, and another captain over here with 4 prowlers and 2 goblin archers. The leaders or the captains do not have any equipment, though they have it on their model, but to get the points cost down, we chose to have not shield on this one and not a bow on this one. The deployment of the warbands is on the stairs opposite of each other. This is a game of victory points, and there are 3 ways to get them. The armies get 3 victory points if they, at the end of the game, have a model on the opposite staircase from where they deployed. They also get 3 victory points if they have more models on the opposite staircase than where they deployed. Lastly, they get 3 victory points if they have broken their enemy. So I will deploy the armies and be right back. And now both armies have deployed. The Dead of Dunharrow just clustered together in the middle and the goblins spread out. So let's start the first turn. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the army special rule for Moria is that if they are fighting a model that is trapped, they get a +1 to their fight value. Let's get into priority, turn 1. The Army of the Dead gets a 1 and the Moria Goblins gets a 6, so Moria will start. That is movement done for both sides. The Goblin moved closer to the house, not showing which way they want to go yet, and moving through the Prowlers towards the main force to support them in combat to come. The archers stood still to fire their bows, and on the other side of the table we have the Dead of Dunharrow moving in closer to the building. Which way will the warbands take? This is exciting. Going to the shooting phase for the goblins. These Army of the Dead guys moved so that they are within 6 but outside of 5 inches of the goblins, so that they can charge, but the goblins cannot next turn. But because they are within 6, these 2 prowlers can fire their thrown weapons or throwing daggers. So they have a 4+ to hit, but -1 because they moved. So let's start with this one over here. He needs a 5 up, and he does not score a hit. And the next one will fire at this dead in the front with no shields. So we have to take it in the way if he hits on a 5 up. And no, nothing. Next we have these 2 archers. They will fire their bows at the Army of the Dead guy in the back over there. They need to take an in the way roll for the model in front, and they stood still, so they need 5 up to hit. And they miss on both shots. In the next turn, the priority goes to the Dead of Dunharrow. Alright, so the Dead of Dunharrow do not waste any time and moved 4 models into the house, and the 6 others moved up to this side over here. 2 of them went into combat with the captain and a prowler with spare supports. So on to the movement for the Moria Goblins. This is what the movement looks like for the goblins. These goblins moved up to this side of the building, so the Dead of Dunharrow will have to adjust their positions in the next movement phase. Over here, this goblin failed his courage test and could not get into combat, blocking some of his comrades, but the other ones made it in, and we will move over to the shoot phase. I forgot that this prowler will throw his daggers on his way in, needing a 4 up to hit, and he misses. No further shooting for the goblins, as they have no targets that is not in combat. They could shoot, but probably kill their own guys. So let's move over to the fight phase. Alright, starting with the combat closest to the building over here, 1 dead guy against 2 goblins. And the dead guy will be shielding, taking no risks when outnumbered. And getting a 6 high, which means he wins on fight value. Next, we have this fight with a Prowler and a Goblin against a dead guy. And the dead guy will be shielding once again because he's outnumbered, getting a 6 and winning the fight. That is not true, of course, because the Prowler has equal fight value. So they need a 6 here. Can they get it? No. And the last fight, we have 2 against 2 over here, and the dead ones will set the bar. And they get a 6 once again. And the Prowler gets a 6. Doesn't matter what the captain rolls, he also gets a 6. The fight value is 3 on both sides, so we have to take a roll-off. On a 4 to 6, it goes to the dead ones. And it does not, it goes to the goblins. Alright, starting with the captain, he has a strength of 4 against defense 7, so he will need a 6 to kill the dead one. And doesn't get it. Maybe the Prowler will, because he only needs 5. Strength 3 against defense 7, it's still 6s, but two-handed weapon, it's +1. So 5 up to kill, and gets it. The dead guy is dead. Priority for the next turn goes to the Dead of Dunharrow. Alright, so the Army of the Dead are pulling out some fine strategies. Pulling 2 of their warriors back to face off against the goblins approaching from this side of the building. In the middle, 2 of them went to combat with the enemy captain. And over here, they are trying to tie up as many as possible to get favorable fights. Let's go over to movement for Moria goblins. I forgot to mention this, but the game will end when one army is reduced to below 25% of their starting numbers. Okay, on to the movement phase for the goblins. These moved closer to the stairs, going to try to snatch the victory that way with their numbers. And this Prowler went over here to be able to go into the rear of some of the Dead of Dunharrow. Over here, the captain got a spear support, and the others stood still. So on to the shooting phase. Only one shooting attack this phase, with this Prowler throwing his dagger at the one to the left, needing a 5 up to hit, and he gets the hit. Can he kill him on a 6? No. On to the fight phase, starting with this Prowler on the right side. He will use his two-handed weapon, and he needs a high number here not to lose. And he gets a 2, and that is not good enough, I think. Oh, it's a 2 from the Dead of Dunharrow as well, which means it's a roll-off. On a 4 to 6 goes to good, and it does not. Oh, incredible, exciting. I forgot that the Goblin gets -1 when using his two-handed axe, so he actually loses the fight. And as usual, the Dead of Dunharrow strikes against courage, and the Prowler has a courage of 2, which means they need 4s to kill. And they get it, the Prowler is gone. So the next fight, we have 1 dead guy against 3 goblins, where 1 of them is a captain and 1 is a Prowler. He will be shielding, trying to fend off the attacks, and gets a 6. Starting with the captain from the goblin side, he gets a 4, and the goblin gets a 4, and the Prowler swung with two-handed axe, so he will automatically lose. So they backed away, and the next fight is 2 against 2, and the dead ones will set the bar, and they get a 5. Strong rolling from the Dead of Dunharrow thus far. And the goblins, can they beat a 5? They get a 6, winning the fight. Need 6s by 4s to kill, and they get nothing. Next, we have the Goblin Captain and a friend versus 2 dead guys, and the Goblin Captain sets the bar and gets a 5, and the other Goblin a 5 also, and the dead ones gets a 2, losing the fights. The Goblin needs 6s by 4 to kill, and he gets nothing, and the Captain needs straight up 6s. Can he do it? No! Terrible rolling. Not many kills this far, but I believe that the tactic and strategy will be more important than straight up kills. Let's go into priority for the next turn, and the Dead of Dunharrow gets a 5, and the Goblins also 5, which means that the Goblins gets priority this turn. That is movement done for the Goblins. These 4 took a defensive position towards the stairs, not going into combat, and these 3 just moved closer to the stairs as well. This Prowler failed his courage check and could not go into combat. Over here, the captain and a spear support went into combat once again with the dead in the building, and some other fights over here, and some of the goblins failed their courage check, so they cannot participate in the combat. Over to movement for the Dead of Dunharrow. Not a lot of things that the Dunharrow could do, but these two went into combat with this goblin and a spear support, choosing not to charge multiple enemies to get favorable fights. And over here, these two got into combat with this goblin over here. So on to the shooting phase. So I guess there is no shooting. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but since this prowler failed his courage check, he cannot fire his weapon in the shooting phase. Leave a comment if that is wrong interpreted by me. Let's go over to the fight phase. Starting with a 2-on-2 over here, and the goblin sets the bar and gets a 5 or 2 5s. And the dead gets double 1s, losing the fight. No shield on this Warrior of the Dead, so straight up 6s kills it. And nothing. Next we have the fight in the building, and the dead one sets the bar and gets a 6. Goblin Captain gets a 3, and the last goblin 4. Striking at the captain's courage of 3. They still need force to wound, and they get nothing. Next we have one goblin against 2 dead ones, and the goblin will be shielding, and he gets a 4. And the dead gets a 5. Needing force to kill, surely this will be his end. And they get it, the goblin is dead. Next we have a 1-on-1 fight, and the goblin gets a 5 and the dead one a 2. 6s by force to kill, and they get the 6. Can they get the 4? No! The last fight's the goblin captain and a friend against 2 dead ones, and the captain sets the bar. He gets a 3, and the goblin gets a 2, and the dead ones get a 6. Needing force to wound. Can they get a wound on this one? Yes, they can. And the goblin has a fate point, so he will use that. And he fails, so he takes a wound. We will just put this die over here to keep tabs on the wounds. Next turn, priority goes to the goblins, because that was a 1. Movement for Moria goblins is done, and this prowler got scared, so he could not go into combat. But this prowler as well failed their courage check, so this is the combats per now. I don't think that the Dunharrow will move, but there it is. In the building, the battle is on once again, and over here, these goblins moved up the stairs to try to get an advantage on the dead of Dunharrow. These archers stood still to fire their bows. The only movement for the dead of Dunharrow was these two moved into close combat with the goblin with shield and the one with spear. I have ruled that this is not an elevated position, because the elevated position has to be at least half the height of the enemy model. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And here you have a better shot of what I was talking about, so yeah, let me know. Shooting phase for the goblins. These 2 archers will fire their bows at the spearman in the back. Because he is just supporting, he is not part of the combat. So they have stood still, so they need 5s to hit, and they get nothing. Next we have the fight phase, and here's 2-on-2 over there. So let's start with the goblins. They set the bar and get a 6. It's a very strong start for the goblins, and they need it. The dead gets double 1s. 6s to kill. Can they do it? No! Double 1s! What's up with this game? Next we have the fight inside the building, and the dead will set the bar, getting a 6. The goblin captain gets a 5, and the other goblin gets a 1. But the goblin captain will use a point of might, turning that into a 6, making it a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to good. And it does. Force to wound, and gets 2 6s. The goblin captain has a fate point. Can he save himself? No, he takes 2 wounds, and that means that he is dead. Next we have 1 goblin against 3 dead ones, and the goblin will be shielding. He gets a 6, and that's he will need. And the Warriors of the Dead gets a 4. Next we have the goblin captain and a spear support against 2 dead ones, and the captain gets a 5, and the spear support a 1, and the dead ones gets the 6. The goblin will might it. It was a 5, and will might it up to a 6, making it a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to good. And it does not, it goes to the goblins. The spear support needs 6s by 4s to kill, and he gets nothing. And the captain needs straight up 6s. No! Still not a lot of kills, but the game continues, and the priority for the next turn goes to the goblins once again. Movement is done for both sides. This is kind of exactly the same as last turn, with the fights over here going and the other goblins just watching because they're scared or something. Over here, the Prowler once again did not make his courage check, and that is true for this one also. So the Dead of Dunharrow could take their pick on the fights. Let's go into the shooting phase. These goblin archers will fire their bows at the spearmen in the back, needing 5 up to hit, getting 1 hit, and needs 6s by 4s to kill. No, nothing. 1 throwing weapon from this Prowler, same targets, needing a 4 up to hit, and gets the hit. It's a strength of 3 because it's a thrown weapon, so he needs a 6 to kill. No. Moving on to the fight phase, the goblins sets the bar at a 4 and the Dead of Dunharrow gets a 6, needing 4s to wound. No, nothing. Everyone is immortal in this game. Next, we have a goblin against 2 dead ones, and the goblin sets the bar at a 4 and the dead ones get double 6, intent on killing the goblin. First to kill? Yep, he's gone. Next, we have 2 against 1 over here, normal strikes. The goblin sets the bar at a 2, and the dead ones get also 2, which means they win on fight value. 4 up to kill, and they get it. Lastly, we have a 3-on-1 fight, or 3-on-2 fight over here, and the Dead of Dunharrow sets the bar, they get double 6s. Goblin captain needs a 6. And gets it! And the other goblin, doesn't matter, but it's a tie. So we have to roll off on a 4 to 6, goes to good. And it goes to evil. Starting with the spear support needing 6s by 4s to kill, and he gets nothing. And the captain needs straight up 6s. No. This game is going on forever, so thank you for sticking with the match. Let's continue. On priority, Dead of Dunharrow gets a 2, and the goblins get a 4. It's the same over and over again. Yeah, let's do another turn. Alright, so movement is complete. This Prowler went into this doorway to try to hold off the dead ones over there, and here we have a lot of dead ones against a few goblins, so I guess we know how this will end. This Prowler went up towards here to support this combats in next couple of turns, and the goblins went on the offensive this time and getting into combat with multiple foes. Let's go into the fight phase. Starting with the goblin captain against 2 dead ones, and the dead one sets the bar and gets a 4, and the captain gets a 2. 4 up to wound, surely this will be the end of the goblin captain, and yes, he is gone. 3 dead ones against a goblin, and the goblin sets the bar, getting a 2, and the dead ones get 6, needing 4 up to kill, and gets it. Next, we have the Prowler, and he will use his 2-handed weapon. Not smart, but he will. Gets a 5, and the dead ones gets a 4, so it's a tie, and it's a roll-off because the fight is the same, so 4 to 6 goes to good. And it does. 4 up to kill, and he is also dead. Next, we have a 1-on-1, and the dead one sets the bar, getting a 1, and the goblin gets a 5. 6 is to kill. No. 2 against 1, and the dead one gets a 1, and the goblins get a 3. 6 is to kill. No. Priority for the next turn goes to the Dead of Dunharrow this time. Right, that is movement phase done, and the Dead of Dunharrow has done some tactical choices. Getting 2 of them towards their own table edge once again to try to eliminate this Prowler, and went into combat over here and got countercharged by the goblins. So there are multiple fights over here. These 2 failed their courage check, so they have to stand still. On the other side, 2 of the dead got onto the stairs, and 3 of them are soon to be. So let's go into the fight phase and see how this turns out. Starting with this fight over here, the Prowler sets the bar with his 2-handed weapon, getting a 3 because -1, and the dead ones gets a 5. 4 up to kill, and he's dead. Next, we have a 2 against 1 over here, and the dead one sets the bar, getting a 2, and the goblins get a 4. They need a 6 to kill him, and they don't get it. Lastly, we have a 2 against 1, and the dead one gets a 5, and the goblins get 4. Looking at the bowman in the stairs, needing 4 up to kill, and gets it. The goblin is gone. Alright, as of now, the goblins are broken, and we'll need to start taking courage checks. But let's see who gets priority. The goblins get a 2, and the dead gets a 3. Alright, so these 5 dead ones went up into the stairs, trying to secure that objective, and these went into combat with each of their respective goblins that are in the stairs to eliminate them, to make sure that they get the most amount of victory points. Now the goblins not in combat have to test if they flee the battlefield. So let's start with this one over here, needing 8, and he's gone. Next one, we have this prowler over here. He is also gone, courage of 2, so 8 needed. And this archer is gone as well. And the last one not in combat also flees the battlefield. Alright, so no matter how the fights go, this is the end of the battle, and the Dead of Dunharrow are victorious. They broke their enemy for 3 victory points, and they got on to the other side of the table for 3 victory points, and they have more models on that objective, so they get 9 points total. If these goblins had survived, or one of them rather, the goblins would have gotten 3 victory points, so let's just give them that. The Army of the Dead is victorious, 9 points to 3. Thank you for watching this battle report. See you next time.